Cool. Yeah, dude, the cinnamon moonshine. That's what we were just talking about. Cinnamon moonshine. Bonding over North Carolina hillbillies.
Yeah.
So Logan, dude, it's a pleasure to meet you, man.
Pleasure to be here, man.
I'm excited to have this conversation because we're in a lot of the same kind of areas right now in life as far as our businesses go. So let's get some background on you, dude. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up? How'd you get here?
Sure. So I'll give you there's a short version, a medium version, a long version. I'll give you the medium version.
Perfect.
So I'm from Birmingham, Alabama, originally. Moved up
Roll
here.
Tide?
Roll Tide.
Roll damn tide.
Roll Tide.
Don't give a nothing. What's that dude right now? It's like, don't give a piss about nothing but the tide. Have you seen that guy?
That
Dude,
sounds like what I've grown up hearing. I don't know what you're talking about.
Anyway,
I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama. Moved up to Lebanon, Tennessee, back in October of 23. So I went to college at Birmingham Southern College. Rest in peace. They closed down last couple months ago.
Oh, really?
Which sucks. But graduated there in 2022. First generation college student. Worked throughout college, just odd and end jobs. Always had too much on my plate, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I majored in music and minored in psychology and studied a lot of kind of the overlap of music and psychology.
Oh, interesting.
Really fascinating stuff. Kind of how music affects your brain, how you perceive music, how we process it and interpret it, and that kind of thing. So,
wow.
Really interesting stuff. Wanted to go get a degree from Indiana University. Yes, not University, but Indiana University, the Jacob School of Music. They have a film composition master's program, and so I got accepted. I'd passed a couple of my entrance exams. Was getting ready to roll, and I was stressed out about how am I gonna live? How am I gonna move up there? How am I gonna get the money to just pay rent?
Yeah.
And I decided to, long story short, through a series of decisions. I'm not gonna say they were good decisions or bad decisions, but they were decisions.
Yeah.
I traded in my 2015 Honda Civic for a 2004 Ford E250 15-passenger van.
Oh, I love where this is going.
And I was like, I'm going to strip this thing out, and I'm going to
build it up.
Build it out. I'm going to live in it, right?
Dude.
I was like, I can do this.
You're my hero.
My first, for the next 30 seconds to tell you what happened to it. Like my freshman year of college, I had a woodworking and blacksmithing business with a friend of mine from high school.
Okay.
And that was super impactful, just learning how to create forms and keep track of orders and, you know, customer relationships.
Business stuff.
Business stuff.
Yeah.
While going to school full time, and then I transferred to Birmingham Southern out of a community college. So, anyways, I was like, I've got the skill set to strip this van out, and I was like, I've got the skill set to finagle with some car dealers. I was like, I got this.
Yeah.
I got this. I'm a whole 22 years old, and I have a college degree.
I know everything.
I have a music degree. Like, I should be fine. And
I can negotiate.
And I learned that I could not. So this
You went the opposite way?
We went the opposite way.
They're like 20 grand. You're like 30. That's my viral offer.
35 where I walk.
They're like, okay.
So it was like, great. I have an equity check out of this thing from the trade-in. They were stoked about it. They were like, this punk-ass kid, moron, coming in here trying to trade this thing in. And I was like, no, this is good. This works for my goals.
Yeah.
This is my goals.
Yeah.
It's out of the box. I'm an out-of-the-box guy. It would be great. And so I get the thing. I make it 3 days. I got back to campus because I was still living on campus working at the school. And I was like, I'm stoked. And I just like started ripping out seats and flooring, and like this thing was stripped by like half an hour after I got back. I was so stoked. 3 days later, I come to realize the front suspension shot. The rear axle, wrong size. It wasn't even the right axle on the back. So like it was not drivable. Right. So I sell this thing at a major loss.
Dude, I'm not laughing at you.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It was
dang.
bad, man. And now I'm like, well, I'm not going to go 75 grand into debt for a master's degree in Indiana. So it's like, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to work some jobs, and I'm going to, you know, see what we may happen.
Yeah.
I bought a stick shift to replace, because like I got to have a car.
Yeah.
So I bought a stick shift, and then I learned how to drive a stick shift.
Nice.
That day. And so fixed that thing up, learned a lot about that, and just worked, just hustled.
Yeah.
And then I met my now wife, spoiler alert, I met her on a dating app on Hinge.
Hell yeah.
In like November, right? And I was going to move up here from Birmingham, and then that got prolonged, but we start dating long distance. And then I'm still thinking, I'm like, man, what do I want to do? I was like, I've always wanted to join the military. I've always been batting around this idea.
Nice.
So I was like, I'm going to put in an application to the National Guard. And so I did. March the 6th, I put in an application to the National Guard after talking with some recruiters and everything. March the 7th, I was working at Birmingham Southern, and I was up on a ladder on the top of a building, and then all of a sudden I was not on the top of that ladder.
Oh, my God.
And I was, in fact, at the bottom of some stairs very quickly, and broke both of my legs in that process. So,
Dude, what year was this?
This was 2023. This was last March.
This is last year.
Yeah. It was like not even a year and a half ago.
Holy shit, dude.
Yeah, it was bad. It was a bad deal. So I had a lot of time on my hands.
Yeah.
Sitting in a wheelchair on my parents' couch again. I was like, oh, crap. This is a few steps backwards.
Yeah.
So I was like, what am I going to do? And I was like, I've been pursuing music, film scoring. I do all this stuff. I was like, I'm going to keep doing it. Why would I not keep doing it? So I had a bunch of ideas hit me all at once, and I reached for the closest thing to me to write them all down, and it was a pizza box. So I ripped the lid off, wrote it all out with a Sharpie, and that's why my company's Pizza Box Media.
Oh.
So
there
it is.
What a cool. I was wondering
there
about where the name came from.
It was either that or piece of shit van.
Yeah.
It's one of those. And so I went
Bad decision van
bad
media.
decision van. So yeah, man, I got to work doing just laying the foundations, not really knowing where it was gonna go. And
yeah.
So
talk to me about Pizza Box Media.
Yeah.
What do you guys do?
Absolutely. So, I mean, initially it started out as just a way for me to more formally go about scoring films and working on film projects, making music for people, things like that. And so there's a few gigs here and there and that kind of thing. But I also knew, I was like, okay, how do I help provide resources to filmmakers and content creators in the music space? You've got royalty-free music libraries that are out there, but there's not a lot of customization that you can have with those. Mm-hmm. You're kind of stuck in a box with it. You can chop it up if you're a good enough video editor. You can kind of chop it up a little bit, but you don't really have the creative control over it.
Right.
So I was like, how do we solve this? I was like, oh, loop packs. Download loop packs, and it's like, here are the building blocks of the songs. Here we go. So I rolled that out, knowing in the back of my head, like, this would be better than an app. Like, I should make an app for this. And so I rolled it out just to get the concept out there, and not successful at all, which was fine because I was like, I think I know where this needs to go.
So you rolled the app out.
I rolled the loop packs, just like
gotcha.
zip files with the WAV files and MP3s and whatever, so that
Yeah.
a filmmaker could download it and say, oh, I want to make a violin song or whatever, and they'd be able to load it all in their video editing software. People do that all the time.
Right.
That's not an uncommon thing. You see those kinds of ads.
So was it almost
everywhere.
more of like a template type?
Almost, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
Gotcha.
something more like that.
And the customer would be the filmmaker?
The film composer.
The composer.
Yeah, so the filmmaker would be the client, and then
Gotcha.
they download
the user would be
right.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
And so I was like, okay, how do we take this, and how do we run with it a little bit further, do something that hasn't been done before?
Yeah.
I had a conversation with a guy by the name of Craig Brandwine, who's down in Birmingham. Craig's had a pretty successful career as a composer and as a music producer, and so we were talking over coffee one time, and it came up at the end of our conversation, AI. And he was like, man, I'm at the twilight of my career, and so I'm not going to touch it. He's like, it freaks me out.
Yeah.
Like, it's changing the whole game. He's like, I pity you, though, because you got to figure this out.
Right.
He's like, you're trying to get into this world when all this is happening. And I was
That's
like, well,
exciting.
okay, I can either, like, just sit there and let it happen, or I can,
Ride the
actually
wave.
ride the wave. And so this is at the end of, all of the 6 months of recovery, physical therapy, all of this stuff, planning all this stuff out. I move up to Nashville in October. 23, proposed to Haley.
Nice.
In November.
She said no.
She said no. And then I moved back to Birmingham. Bought another van.
I'm going to try round two.
I'm going to try round two. And then we got married in January. And so
Nice.
here we are. So
Congrats,
this
dude.
whole time, thanks. Appreciate
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
This whole time we've been working on developing the software. So I partnered with a friend of mine from college, Andrew Schofield. And so he has a degree in film and media studies and in computer science.
Oh, so he's developing it.
So he's the developer.
Nice.
Yeah. So my dad had an IT company He still does. He started it when I was 13, so I helped him get that off the ground. So I'm familiar with the IT world, but the coding world and the software development, I was like, I was like, I could sit down and learn how to code, but it would take me a long time.
Oh my God.
It would take me a long time.
Yeah.
And
You'd miss the wave of the
You'd miss the wave.
opportunity for
Exactly.
business. Yeah.
Exactly. Like the wave would be gone and over. So we built out a prototype, and we've had a prototype for a couple of months.
Nice.
And so we're in the middle of doing a pre-seed fundraising round. It's $30,000. It's not anything crazy.
Nice.
Had a really great meeting with somebody, a capital connector up in Canada, just before coming here.
Oh, cool.
And I was explaining to her, like, the plan is we're doing a limited beta on Monday, and we'll do that through most of the month of July into August. Implement those improvements, develop kind of like what you guys are doing, develop a waiting list, and then launch it September, October, and see what we can do with $30,000 and a lot of sweat equity, and then we'll go in and we're going to start doing some seed rounds and have something to show before we go into all of that. So.
I think the timeline makes perfect sense. Right, you're staying lean, testing it, getting proof of concept, talking to customers. So who is your ideal download? Who's the ideal person that could use it during the beta, that could give you good feedback? Who is that? What does that person look like?
It's mainly it's a combination of filmmakers and content creators and music producers. So the product is an AI-assisted digital audio workstation that integrates into video editing software. So it solves the issue that we had, where I was like, okay, we've got the loop packs, as does hundreds of other people that are trying to sell these things. Yeah. This gives the space within a video editing software to be able to actually go in and edit it, rearrange things, and it gives an AI integration to help you know where to put them.
Oh, that's
how does the music work, right? Because it's a whole separate skill set.
Yeah.
And I've done that work, and I'm still doing that work, and the people that I'm working with, we've done that work of music production. Filmmakers, not as much. It's not the wheelhouse. Just like I don't know filmmaking as well. Andrew does.
Right.
Which is great. But
so this seems like it could be really applicable to, like you said, content creators that are making their living on the YouTube, social media, Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is, right? Because there are so many products now that are coming out with AI assist that are meant to assist in the content creation, but nothing that kind of handles that, as far as I know. Do you have competitors in that area, or what does that look like right now? What are current options for
Sure. So right now, as far as music goes, content creators rely on royalty-free libraries.
Right.
These music catalogs that you can buy a license for it, put whatever song you want in there. It takes a long time to find these songs. And then you still have to chop it up, and it still might not work. And it's not. You're usually having the statistic is that 64% of content creators admit to compromising on their music, even though 97% say that it is the most important part of how their content performs.
Big time.
Is how good is the music.
Yep.
And so that's a problem. You're spending money and you're spending time on something that you're not totally happy with. So it lacks customization. So what we're doing is we're putting that creative control in the hands of the users, using AI to help. So right now the options are you can upload a song in Spotify, and it'll spit out, hey, this is what our catalog has. This is what we're using.
That's what's similar to it.
That's similar to it, and you still have to. You can still go and search through it. And right now, that's the best solution that has been come up with for saving time.
Okay.
And that has its use. That can be a useful thing.
Right.
The other thing is generative AI. So you can go in and you can say, the goal, what people are working towards is like, hey, I want something like Beethoven, or I want something like Hans Zimmer, and it'll just create it, right?
Interesting.
What my contention with that is, we want the AI of this software to complement the user, the creativity of the user, rather than supplement them or somebody else. I'm a film composer. I don't want to box myself out of future work. You know what I mean? I enjoy that kind of work.
Right.
And so what we want to do is we want to increase the abilities of the users, open their skill set up by expanding on skills that they already have within their video editing software, and give them that ability to understand music and to create music. And then that makes my job easier to communicate with people, because there's more of a context for film creators to have as far as talking about music.
So how does like royalties and permission for said music come into play with your product? Is it needed? I don't know anything about this space, so I'm sorry if these questions are elementary.
No,
but
no.
I don't know anything about the music space, about how all that stuff currently works. I find it fascinating, so this is really cool.
So, quick history of it. In 2008, there was a study done that 95% of online music was pirated.
Oh, shit.
And so you have this rise of short-form content, right?
Yep.
Vine, YouTube, things like this coming around. People making funny videos for MySpace. I don't know.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Like this short-form content that's coming out, and people need music for it. But a lot of it was getting pulled down because they didn't have the license to it. Because what you're doing is you're taking somebody. It's a product. It's a tangible product. It's sound. I mean, it's a measurable, tangible product. And you're saying you're not giving credit. You're using it without permission.
Yeah.
Is what you're doing. And no matter what space you're in, if you're using somebody's intellectual property or physical property without their permission, that's illegal. Can't do that. So you have music library companies that come along, like Epidemic Sound is the largest one. They're worth like $1 billion. They started in Sweden around that time. And so you can buy a license and you can have permission.
Right.
Basically. And it's like a monthly subscription, and they have this catalog of all of this music.
And you can use everything in that.
And you can use everything in that. There are restrictions on it. Excuse me. So what... it is important. It is important because Build a Score, the name of we went this whole thing with that. It's called Build a Score. So there's an onboarded music library to it and sample library. So little sound effects and musical cues and full songs.
Yeah.
So that we're composing or that we're acquiring the license to, things like that. And so the user in their EULA, they'll have. I mean, there's restrictions on what they can do, and we want to keep those restrictions as light as possible. Mainly limit it to things like, hey, don't claim that this is yours if it isn't.
Gotcha.
Here are the pieces. If you make something original out of these pieces, great, you can call that yours. But if you're taking a track that has already been made, like in the traditional setting, same sort of thing. Don't call it yours. It's not yours.
Gotcha.
But you can use it. You can use it for whatever you want.
But it's not yours. Don't call it. That's not your property.
Right.
Got
exactly.
it. Okay.
Does that clear it? Does that clear it up a little bit?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
Why? This is a side note, related, but side note. Why is Sweden? Isn't Spotify made out? Didn't Spotify come out of Sweden?
It may have.
Why is Sweden like this music capital for tech? Like, that's so weird. Two of the largest companies.
Underground disco scene.
Dude,
Swedish disco. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure Spotify was Sweden. The guy who created it. Doesn't matter. Okay, cool. Sweden.
Yeah,
right?
Sweden.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Sweden's killing it.
Sweden's got something going on in the music scene. They got something we don't know about.
Is that where Eurovision is? Where's Eurovision? Sweden participates in Eurovision, right?
Yeah. Jamie, look that up. Yeah. Yeah, Jamie, bring that up. Fuck yeah. So where do you see AI going? Not just in your space, or maybe in your space, but then beyond. How do you feel like this is going to affect people's kind of lives right now? Because I think there's kind of two sides of the court on where it's going, where it could be.
What are the two sides in your
I
view?
think some people think it's it's overhyped.
Mm-hmm.
I think people, and then the other side is like, this is a million times the invention of the internet type thing, and it's going to be we're 10 years away from not having to have jobs anymore.
Sure.
Right. I think there's two camps, and there's obviously in between, but those are kind of the extremes. Where do you think you fall on the kind of the AI train there?
On my perspective of it,
yeah,
that is. So, like I said, I don't want. I think that AI will eventually be capable of this, and I'm not saying that it should happen. There's slippery slope arguments. You find them everywhere, and I've lately been curious of what do you do about a slippery slope argument?
Yeah.
Right? Because just because something's a slippery slope argument doesn't mean that it's not bringing up legitimate issues,
right.
Things like that. So where do you draw? Where's the fence on that slope? Where's the line? You say we don't cross this, and how do you keep the consequences or the predicted consequences in mind to remind you not to cross it, right? So I think that things like generative AI in music, it's got a long ways to go before it becomes like indistinguishable from human creation.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where just because it can, I don't know that it should. And so there are applications where it does concern me, where I'm like, okay, I don't know that I want to see that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's such a useful tool.
Amen.
It's crazy
Yeah.
I mean, just like the code that we're able to sit down and write. Like, I don't code, but I can understand the logic of code and understand how to read it a little bit, and so I can tell ChatGPT
Yeah.
what I need, and it'll tell me, and I can just learn enough about code to go, oh, this is why this didn't work, or whatever.
Right.
And it saves a lot of time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you're saving time, you could be costing people jobs.
Right.
And so it's got to find its place,
Mm-hmm.
And I think it is important for legislation to be written about protecting people from it.
Yeah, I think it's definitely
malicious use.
Yeah, and I've already seen some bias responses from some AI tools, which is interesting. It's like, okay, who's in charge of this thing, and how is it doing that? How is it biased? So that would be a concern. I think the way we use it. I mean, now I use AI every single day, multiple times a day.
Oh yeah.
For our social stuff, we use AnyWord, and they're basically it's AI, but what they do is you prompt it based on the Google ad you want to run, the Facebook ad, the social post, the blog, the email, whatever it is, and you prompt it. It gives you, let's say it's an Instagram post. You prompt it, it gives you what the post should read, and then it scores it off of 100,000 different posts in the same area based off of a 0 to 100.
Sure.
100 means it's better than 100% of them, and it's on a sliding scale there. So then you can also change the tone, you can make it funny, you can make it educational, you can make it all different types of things. Create an audience that you want to attract. So that builds the message. Like for us, it builds the message off of attracting a homeowner or a real estate agent or whatever, right? So between that and all of the other products that have AI assist and AI help, I mean, I think as long as we're using it for tools like that, we can. I don't think it quite gets rid of people right now. I think all it does is it allows us to produce at a higher, quicker rate, whatever you're producing as a business.
Yeah.
AI isn't quite ready to be like, we don't need 50 engineers anymore or developers. We need 2. It's not ready for that. We can do 50 and we can do double the work. Right? You know what I'm saying? Exactly. That's where it's at right now.
And I think that's an important perspective to keep. That it should be a complement, not a supplement.
Yeah, big time.
And that's and it really is just about it's like there's a reason why Drink Responsibly is printed on every single alcoholic beverage.
Yeah.
Because companies they're required for you for them to at least say that, so that you're keeping it in mind, so that you don't do something stupid, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's similar, and that's why I think there needs to be things to use AI responsibly or whatever.
Yeah, AI responsibly.
AI responsibly.
Yeah. Well, what I find fascinating is if you go back probably about 10, 15 years ago, probably more like 10. Maybe 15, 20 if I think about it. So 2005, 2010, that time frame. I think most people, if you would have polled, people would have said technology is going to replace the blue-collar worker first. It's going to replace the plumber. It's going to replace the electrician. We're going to be in that direction. And what we've seen over the past couple of years is really technology is going to replace the lower white-collar jobs. It's going to replace the what's the people at the law firm that aren't the lawyers, but they're like the assistants?
Paralegals.
Yeah. It's going to replace the paralegals. Because there's going to be tools that just say, hey, read this, scan this, give me these important pieces out of it that already exist. So those paralegals, it's those types of jobs that I think will be at first risk. I don't think they quite are yet.
Agreed.
But I mean, somebody's going to come out of your house and change your HVAC. We're far away from a robot doing that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I just find that fascinating. And that's why I say it all the time is I think the next kind of financial hack for early 20s guys is learn a trade and then start a company, because that's going to provide a little bit of safety for you in the future, in my opinion.
I think one of the things that AI is going to do, it's going to, in the same way that, right, you get this late stage capitalism where you've got massive corporations, right?
Yeah.
I think that what that does is it starts to drive you maybe let me support my local businesses, things like that. It drives you. It can shift the perspective if you're savvy about it.
Yeah.
It shifts the perspective back to the individual, and so I think that AI can do that, where eventually it makes the human touch a commodity of sorts.
Yes.
And so I think that's an exciting thing, and that's one of the things that's one of the ways that we're approaching Build a Score is we can't lose the human touch.
Yeah.
Even if they're here for a little while, people are only give me generative AI, give me nothing else. Why would I, do this? Eventually, why would I do it any other way? Eventually, it's gonna shift to people are going, oh, you mean this was made by a person?
Right.
Now we're like, oh, this was made by AI. That's so cool.
Yeah.
That pendulum will switch.
Retro.
Right, it's retro. Dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like, dude, the other day I saw this lady. She was like, her style was kind of hippie, retro. That was kind of her thing. And I saw her pull out she was way too young to be doing this. She pulled out a newspaper and started reading the newspaper. And I was like, I know she's doing that because, like, that's her style. She wanted to be, like, the cool retro chick reading a newspaper. It was so wild because I was like, that is, like, the most inconvenient way to take in news. But she was, like, wanted to be, kind of retro with it. To your point, I think music and art and film and all that stuff, I think those are the main industries where we have to be very careful keeping the human touch in it because that's what makes those things. That's what makes those industries is the human aspect to it, right? That's why art is considered art to some people, and that same art to that person is not art to another person.
Yeah, right.
Right? It's kind of in the eye of the beholder. It's the same thing with music. It's the reason why I like what I like and you like what you like because of the human aspect of it. Yeah. Right? I think other industries, people aren't even going to know that AI assisted, right? And I think that's kind of the point of it. That's at least our goal with how we hope to integrate AI is the problem that we found homeowners have is they don't quite know who to call, when to call, right, when they have an issue in their home. So, like, an example would be your microwave's broken. Some people would think handyman. Let me call a handyman. When really an appliance repair person is going to charge you less because of their expertise. Sure. They're going to do it right. Sure. And there's great companies that do that. They might not know, right? Some people just don't know. And we found that out just through the years of being in people's homes and validating and surveying and stuff like that. So what AI can do there is, you can go on our platform and just describe the situation. Hey, my microwave's not latching closed. It then connects you with the highest quality vendor in your area that services that area with prices associated with it. You just hit book, right? So, like, that's our goal is to make a situation like that as easy as that, right? Sure. There's ones that are very simple, right? Like, I've got a leak. I know I need to call a plumber, right. Or, a light switch isn't working, electrician, But there's a lot of other ones that aren't, and homeowners are kind of looking for kind of the easy button there too. But also, I mean, even ones where you would know, you'd still want an easier solution. So it's like, I need to move a outlet. All right, here's a handyman that can do it, and here's an electrician that can do it. You want 2 quotes? Here you go, right? So, I think in that case, I honestly think the average consumer doesn't quite understand that that's probably AI assisting in that. Right. They just use the technology, and like that's kind of what I think the goal of AI should be. At least it is for us. That's cool. Completely just consumer uses it. It's super convenient, but there isn't this huge like this is a robot doing it. Right. I think that's what people are worried about when they think AI. Terminator is what they're worried about. Yeah. Which is fair. I mean, you grow up, watching movies about this happening, and you're like, why are we even messing with this? Yes. Why are we messing with this? Yeah. But what is realistic versus, there's a reason it's a movie. Yeah. But so okay, I like artificial intelligence, I think, and I've come to learn this more as we've been pursuing this endeavor. Yep. It's not as intimidating as something like deep learning is, or even machine learning. Oh, dude. Artificial intelligence is. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's a script. It's code that is structured to think in a similar way that a human thinks. Right. Meaning, it's pretty binary. It's just this is connected to this. This is connected to this. Right. We have billions of neurons that are result in trillions of combinations. An incalculable. Ooh, I said that well. Yeah, you did. Incalculable combination of action potentials and firings in your brain. Yeah. And so it's like you get AI, you get this code to say if this, then this. And you just do that a bunch of times. Yeah. You have all of these different parameters, 500 million parameters or whatever it is, and it just accesses it all at the same time. It's just modeling. And it's like there's some script in Build a Score that I had to sit down and write because it's like I know the music side of things and I understand some psychoacoustics and things like that, and how we process sound. So I've got to make sure that the script is doing it in a way that's similar to humans so that it can present something that a human is going to go, yes, I know what this means.
not really high level data. Making it presentable. So with what you guys are doing, so okay, so say somebody's like, oh, my microwave isn't latching, and it's a really simple like user error kind of thing, or just a simple little part's broken. How do you filter out what's the best match for that customer based on, you could bring an appliance repairman and the best in the area, but that might be a little beneath them.
Yeah.
So overcharging and things like that. How do you process that?
Yeah. So I think what that would have to be is part of the process of saying, hey, my microwave isn't latching. Here's a picture. Connection to the vendor. Vendor goes, I see that a million times a day. Message on the platform. Just do this. Problem solved. Right. That's where we still have to have a human element to the process of a lot of these. What we found is there's really two avenues on our platform where it kind of, there's two different ways this can work, is virtual quoting abilities and non-virtual quoting abilities. So virtual quoting abilities are industries that have generally quote their prices off of per square foot, per acre, per linear foot, per driveway, whatever it is, they have their pricing based on that. Then there's other ones that require a diagnosis or multiple steps before you get to here's the price. So examples of that are plumbing. You have to go out there. Somebody has to diagnose what the problem is. They have to get parts. Sure. There's a lot of steps before what the price is going to be. Flooring, you got to get them out there. They got to get their measurements. You got to go to the showroom, select what you want. Then based on their measurements and what you want, they're going to give you a price. Then you go back to it because it wasn't your price. There's a lot of things that have to happen. But for like lawn care, you go, hey, I want my grass cut. Our platform knows the size of your lawn, so you don't have to do anything. We have a price range based on industry standard pricing, and you get a virtual quote right away.
Cool.
It's an estimated quote. You post the job. Then the vendor sees that. They can change the price or accept the price. It's up to the vendor still then. And then the homeowner goes, they have a curated list of the top 4 or 5 companies, and they go, yep, I choose this one, and it's done, right? So in that aspect, it's a little bit more simple. But for like the flooring, what's going to happen there is, and I don't even know the original question. I'm just going down on how this is all working.
You got it.
So like for flooring or the non-virtual quoting abilities, let's say you wanted new floors. You would say, hey, I want new floors. You'd post that job. Every flooring company on the platform sees that opportunity. And they go, yep, we do this neighborhood all the time. This looks like a great job for us. Throw our hat in the ring. Say, hey, we can do it. What you then see is the top 3 or 4 that said yes. And you would see their Google rating, you'd see pictures, you'd see reviews, you'd see who in your neighborhood has used them, who in your zip code has used them. You see all that stuff. And then you get to make your choice from those top 3 or 4, right? And then you say yes to this person. Then and only then is that vendor charged. Right, so that's what makes us hugely different than like a competitor in that sense, because it's kind of the warmest lead you can possibly get, because you've seen the job, the vendor's seen the job, you've seen them, you've selected them.
Nice.
At that point, the company has to go out there and perform the estimate, and if they mess it up from there, you can lead a horse to water type thing, right?
Right.
We can't do the sell for them.
Yeah.
So, what was the original question?
Oh man, how do you handle like? You answered it. It was about
the picture, right?
Yeah, it was like how do you match the jobs correctly so that you're not, and so that's great. So it's you've kind of also got a built-in solicitation policy then, where because like I know, you ever be like oh, I need new car insurance, I need new health insurance, and you're like,
dude,
let me get, oh yeah, I'd love to get a quote, and then you're getting 20 phone calls every hour,
bombarded. You just described Angie and Thumbtack, so. To go off of that, Angie, if you use Angie, you go, all right, I want my grass cut. Then you have to go through about 15 questions. Then they send all of your personal information to about 10 to 20 different competitors. Becomes a race because they were all charged $30 for that lead, $40. It becomes a race to see who can call you, email you, text you the most because they want your business. But you're still left in the same spot, which is I don't have a lawn care provider. I don't know any of these guys. I don't have time. I don't want to still do the vetting, right? So we've taken that vetting process away, and we've done it for you. We're an invite-only platform, so we can really control the quality of vendor. We require COIs, insurance. We require certifications within the industries that are needed, and they have to be state legal. So we're not gig work. I think a lot of these other platforms get in trouble with that. And then, shit, where's I going with that? Hold on. Don't stop me. It's coming back. This is like the third one of these today, too. My brain just fried. God bless America. What started it? What were we just talking about?
We were talking about the solicitation.
Yes, thank
policies.
you, dude.
Yeah.
So we don't even ask for your phone number or your email address. You create your profile, and it's just your address.
Cool.
So no one has it. It can't get out anywhere. You're not going to get bombarded, right?
Yeah,
so all
that's
you
really
do,
cool.
yeah. So I mean, the solicitation piece of all of the other options on the market is what drives homeowners crazy, and it's why they usually try it once or twice and then don't do it again.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. How did you discover this need?
So we were in restoration, property restoration. That was our other company, and we just talked to thousands of homeowners over the years of running the business, and it was always centered around their maintenance. And we really, and then so simultaneously we were working with service providers, right? So we were a small home service-based business. We were working with plumbers, electricians, handymen, and we were kind of shocked to find that even if they were a franchise or a local mom and pop, they were having the same problems we were, which is normal for small businesses, right? Acquisition costs, acquiring customers, collections, basically front end, back end, everything that everybody's good at was doing the work. But the front end, back end stuff took second place. So we were like, there's got to be a way to where the homeowner almost is the one doing, like, providing the opportunity, right? Because it was always like, if a job could just land on my calendar, life would be solved. Like, life would be easy, you know? So we started thinking about that, knowing what the problems that we saw with homeowners and businesses were. And then we did some real validation and surveying of homeowners. And the top 4 problems evenly, 25%, was payments are fragmented. So if you have a lawn care provider, and handyman, housekeeper, pest control, you have 4 different recurring services that are either weekly, every other week, maybe monthly. You have to pay them in all different ways. So it's cash here, it's check here, it's Venmo here. You usually have to remember to do it. If the business has their stuff together, maybe they send you an email, but it gets lost in your email. Or they don't send you any bills until the end of the month, and then you're sitting there with $250 lawn care bill, right? So we knew we wanted to solve that problem. The second problem we saw with homeowners was communication. They never know who to communicate with. It was a different person coming to the house. They had to remember phone numbers. Some of them like call, some of them like text. It was fragmented as well. The other one was scheduling. They had trouble knowing when and where people were coming, because there was a lot of maintaining a home. You have a lot of these people coming in and out, right? Yeah. And then the last one was when they needed those one-off services like a flooring company or like an HVAC company or a plumber, they didn't know where to turn to find quality vendors. So those were 4 main problems. And another interesting part that we found in our validation was when we asked every homeowner, if you needed to find a handyman right now, how would you do it? And what was interesting was, I would have guessed people would have said Google, right? But over 80% responded in some form or fashion with a referral.
Yeah, that's what came to my mind first. Was like, I'm gonna text my family chat.
That's exactly what people say. I'm gonna text my mom. I'm gonna call my dad. I'm gonna see who they used in the past, right? Or I'm gonna go on Facebook. I'm gonna ask on Nextdoor. So what we did is we know that people want a referral, even if it's from a complete stranger. So we tried to digitize the referral process, right? So when you find a vendor and you use a vendor on our platform, at the end, it'll just ask you to rate them. It's also a 2-sided rating. So vendors get to rate homeowners. Nice. It's kind of like an Uber. Right. So be on your P's and Q's, homeowners. Don't treat your people bad. So, after you're done with the getting your lawn cut or whatever, you leave them a review. That gets posted to your neighborhood, which is zip code based. And in the future, it will be just neighborhood based. And then you can hire right off of that referral, and you can search from that referral. So if you're on your My Home page and you're like, hey, I need a plumber, all of the referrals pop up, and you can see maybe 615 Plumbing has all of the referrals in here. You're like, these guys must be great. You can hire directly from there, right? So that's how we kind of digitized the referral process and made it to where you could trust the referral, and not only trust the referral, but you also know that we're only going to have the highest quality vendors on our platform. That's cool. Right? So all that to be said, that combined with a lot of talking to people, a lot of talking to different investors and different mentors, and kind of shaping and evolving the business model over the past 15 months or so.
Yeah.
Is kind of how we got here and where we're trying to aim to. So
that's really cool. I was going to ask about that just on a higher level of I mean, just from talking with Kenny and talking with Trenton, it's like, this doesn't seem like as far as built the team of people, you've got what, like seven people here? Yeah. Like, y'all have been at this for a month, 2 months, 3 months, like really like as a unit. Like, obviously you and your wife Lindsay have been working on this for, you said, 15 months. So
about.
what has this process been like for you for pursuing investors and getting that kind of stuff? Because I've got an advisory board of a couple of people, and that's been super helpful.
Yeah.
One of those guys has come on as our first investor, and so like that's
Very
been
nice.
really, really huge. But
Congrats.
Thank
That's
you.
big, dude.
Yeah, it's really big. Again, we're not. I mean, $30,000 is not a.
Yeah, that's doable.
It's very doable.
Yeah.
It's this isn't a we've got to get all of our funding goal because then we'll have it and there will be no more sweat equity. No, that's not at all.
Right.
There's going to be a lot of that. We're not going to be compensated for our time until we get a little bit further down the road. But it's been really a different process going through and getting a solid pitch deck, getting executive summaries, getting pro forma evaluations, I've got like 30 pages of market research that it's like in a formalized paper. I'm in an MBA program right now as well. And so I'm getting to take all of this through and like get professor and peer evaluations and things like that. And so that's been super huge. But what was that process of gathering all of that information?
Yeah, man.
What was that like for you guys?
That's a super cool question. So if we go back to probably April of last year is when we were like, okay, there's something here. Let's just start talking about it. Me and Lindsay. And our first model of this business was again to attack the four main problems we knew homeowners had. And what we decided on was one company, one truck needed to come out to your house and perform all of the recurring services that people do. So the idea was one truck with a interior crew and an exterior crew. The interior crew was basically cleaning ladies. They go inside, clean the house, while the exterior crew is outside cutting the grass, spraying for pests, and cleaning the pool if you need to. Super low barriers in those industries. You as far as labor and help, I wasn't super concerned with it, but we started developing it and modeling it, and obviously it's super capital intensive, extremely hard to scale, and not very investable. And our goal is not to be a small business. We want to build this into a $1 billion business, and we want it in every homeowner's hands in America, right? And knowing like that was our goal, is to make that much of an impact. We couldn't choose a business that was constrained by equipment, locations, geography, people, right? We needed something a little bit more in the tech realm. So we talked to a lot of mentors. And they're like, well, we know where the problem exists. We know there's the issue. How do we still solve the issue, but do it in a way that is scalable and investable? Yeah. So we're like, all right, there's got to be it's a tech solution, clearly. So we went and started doing a little bit of research on that. And dude, at the beginning, we didn't know what the hell we were talking about. We were calling ourselves like a SaaS marketplace, which doesn't make any sense, right? So like yeah, I mean, it doesn't. We're just trying to figure it out. So from there, we were like, okay, let's go full tilt in the tech side of it. So we'll get rid of that other business plan that we spent months and months and months working on, and we'll dive into this. And then we probably made that decision October, November last year. And we said, all right, now what? So we started looking at firms to build the tech for us. We started talking to different mentors in the tech space, and we started to really learn, okay, we need to raise some money. And one thing we took was we need to find tech help, right? We need to find somebody on our team that can be a founding member and really, really own the product with us. And that's when we started just doing networking, just like you're doing. And we found Joel Kronk, who's our CTO. First off, awesome guy, just incredible dude, and super smart. Is responsible for changing our model too, and came up with a much better matching system. So, I mean, and he's built the whole thing with assistance, obviously, from Corey, who's our other dev guy. So we found those guys, and we said, let's roll, let's do this thing. And we got a little bit of help from family and friends on some money to get started. And we put the pressure on ourselves, me and Lindsay. We were like, okay, we've got enough money to get these guys on full time now and start developing if we want to launch in August. Knowing full well we didn't have much more than like a couple months runway.
Right, sure.
But we put the pressure on ourselves knowing that we needed and we could raise the money. So we just dug into as many conversations as we could.
Sweet. We
changed our whole pitch deck. We changed our business name. Like we just networked the hell out of it and are still trying to do that, right? And at this point, we've raised $1 million. We've got we want to raise 1.25, so
cool.
250 left.
Breezy.
Yeah, right.
Breezy.
So the crazy part is once the snowball started, it got a little easier.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a hard environment to raise money right now. If this was 2020 or 2021, we would probably have double. But our goal was to get what we needed. We thought at first it was like 300,000. I talked to a mentor. He was like, "That's never going to do it. You need more and more and more and more. Get as much as you can." So we raised it, which I think is a very common process for most people.
Yeah.
And then our goal with that gets us with if we meet some of our revenue goals, we don't necessarily need to ever raise money again, but if we wanted to just stay in Nashville and keep rolling. But we plan to probably start our seed round at the end of next year with the intent of moving into a couple of different regions and really start to scale this out. So our goal this year and next year is really get closer to product market fit, get our product in as many hands in Nashville as we can, take feedback, make corrections, continue to build and grow here, continue to refine kind of our acquisition channels, where we find vendors, where we find homeowners, continue to refine the balance of both of those, figuring out where and when those need to happen, because that's the really tough part about a marketplace. Yeah. Try to get the flywheel spinning, see if we can get some network, to take place. And then, we'd raise the money specifically in the seed round to scale into what we probably think is Texas. We can do a couple cities in Texas. It kind of mimics Nashville a little bit, but not too far outside of it to where, we'd see a whole different market that might ruin our chances. And then I think after we prove it in another region with a couple different cities, we can really expand into more of a nationwide approach at that point. So, yeah, I would say, to put a ribbon on that, the process has been unexpected. It's been you have to really, really have thick skin. I think, it's people will have their opinion based on a 2-second conversation you had about your product. They don't know shit about the industry.
Right.
And they want to start giving you feedback, and they're not even investing, or they're not even investors. They're just other people, and you're just like, but sometimes some good comes out of that. Yeah. So I had to learn, like, thick skin's good there. Putting their 2 cents in, maybe you can take something out of it. But really just be adaptable, be ready to pivot and change based on what you learn. And network. It's going to take 1 trillion no's and before you get, a maybe. I've been laughed out of a room legitimately, and I've been screamed out of a room legitimately from investors or potential investors. Sweet. So it's like,
it's rough.
Yeah, it's rough, dude. It
rough.
is very, very rough. It's embarrassing. It's fucking shitty. It sucks. Wow. It feels horrible. You think about it for days, right? But then you get a huge win. You're like, I fucking told you, And then all that does is just feed me. Because now I'm just like, look, there's no way we're not going to be successful.
And you start to add to your Rolodex of people that were telling you no. You're like, here are the people to prove wrong.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's fuel. It's not where you should, not the only source of fuel that you ought to have.
Who cares if it is?
But it's fuel.
It's fuel. All I need is fuel. If that's the only fuel you have, if that's what makes you successful, give a shit.
Burn it.
Yeah. Burn it until you can't.
Yeah.
That's exactly right, dude. So I wish I had a better answer, but it's just been wild and crazy, and thick skin, be prepared to hear it all. And dude, I think you're in a sick space. You guys have the backgrounds. That's hugely important to investors. The problem exists, trying to solve it. The only way you fail is if you quit now.
I literally said that at a meeting I had today. I was meeting with somebody that I'm working with on getting some marketing content, and we were just commiserating over just the grind.
Yep.
And I was like, that there are a lot of days where I'm beating my head against the wall or yelling into the void. And
Most days.
Yeah. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Why am I doing this? And then and one of the things that keeps me going, on top of my wife, which is a different fire to have up under you.
Yeah.
When you have somebody to care for,
Yes.
and somebody who cares for you. That's a different motivator too.
Yeah.
So that's a really cool dynamic in you guys' stories that you and your wife have been going at this together.
Yeah.
And that's really cool to see. But yeah, like one of the things that's keeping me going is the only way to guarantee that this doesn't succeed is if I stop.
That's 100% true.
Is if I quit.
Yeah, that's a guarantee.
And it's been cool because I'm a big idea guy. I love ideas. I love
Same.
talking about ideas. I love developing ideas. But not everybody sees the idea. So people have been, the conversations that I've been able to have with people, it's like feels like one of the first times in my life where like people hear it. And if they're any kind of associated with this industry, they go, oh.
Yeah.
That's cool. Like I'm like,
Bingo,
okay,
bingo.
sweet,
Yeah.
cool. And now I just got to prove that I can do it.
That's right, dude.
You know?
That's right.
And so,
And you can. Like you just
I'm
said,
ready.
the only way you can't is if you quit.
right.
Or you're just like refusing to take anyone's advice. It's
I'm a little whore for advice, man.
yeah, dude. Yeah.
Bring it on.
Yeah, talk to me, baby. What do I need to do?
Me. Right.
Well, dude, this has been really, really fascinating. I've enjoyed this
Likewise.
a lot, man.
Likewise.
And I love what you're doing. I love the shot you're taking. We're taking similar shots.
Yeah.
Keep at it, brother. If you need anything from us, if we can help in any way, or if you want to come back in a couple months and get some more, have another conversation on how the beta went and where you're going from there.
For sure.
And if I know any angels in the area that are interested in a conversation, I'll be happy to introduce you.
I appreciate that very much.
Yeah. Logan, it's nice meeting you, buddy.
Okay, good to meet you, man.